Hello, everybody. Welcome to What the Frick Live. I'm Emily, your host, and I have Will Martinez with Dark Fringe Radio with me. Hello, Will.
Hey, good evening, Emily. How are you?
I need to learn to slow down. Why do I always feel like an auctioneer when we start?
Everybody, come on down. Come on.
Sold.
Sold.
I need to learn to slow down. To this day, and I mentioned this last week, I still get nervous every single time we go live for some reason. I still do after all these years, but I do. I get nervous. So Eddie's here already. Good afternoon, Emily, to a crazy world. Yes, a crazy world indeed. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Please share this out. Give us a heart on Facebook. Believe it or not, hearts matter. It keeps us in the algorithm. Make comments, ask questions. It keeps us in the algorithm. Everybody knows how bad we're shadow banned everywhere. I don't even think I exist on Instagram anymore. Nobody likes my post.
Instagram, yeah.
Well, I am. Nobody likes the post, but if you go look me up on Instagram, you'll find my backup account that has like 200 followers. You won't find the main account. So, I don't know. Instagram's weird, but we're live tonight. Please share this out. It helps our show, it helps our guests, and it gets the truth out there. Or just different opinions and things. People, we all believe differently and everything. So, Will, what's going on over there at Dark Fringe Radio?
We're still on our sabbatical, our summer sabbatical. We're supposed to actually do a live show tomorrow, but that actually got nixed. Jay actually had to go on a vacation. So it's actually going to happen next week. So we are still debating on what topic we're going to really kind of introduce, but I'll give you guys plenty of notice once it's all been decided on. So we're kind of teeter-tottering on two different topics. So
whatever now that is, I'm going to be watching for sure, and I'm excited. I'll share it out as much as I can. But
appreciate it.
We're going to be talking about alien abductions tonight. But over this crazy week that's happened in the world and all the craziness that's gone on, oh my gosh, it's just nuts. Did you hear the news about NASA and Missy Elliott?
What now? Missy Elliott. I heard about that. Yes. I heard about that.
They launched her beams,
CD
NASA
or
beams,
Whatever. Yeah.
Beams,
What was it? Beam?
Missy Elliott, 158 million miles away through space, and
Crazy, right?
and then I heard through the grapevine that space. Can't believe I'm doing this. It's so cheesy. Space responded.
Oh, did they? Okay, what did they say?
They said the song was automatic, supersonic.
Oh,
funky fresh.
I'll take that. That was good. I like that.
You know. Sorry, that's like a dad joke I saw on TikTok. It was just funny. But I said I'd believe it more if they used Katy Perry and Kanye West.
Oh, right. I know, right?
Yeah. Then I believe the beams up to space on that. But tonight, speaking of beams, we're going to be talking about beams that come down to Earth. We're going to have Dave Emmons on. He hosts the show Strange Reality. He has obtained a degree in TV, radio broadcasting. He's also served in the U.S. Army. He's written several books. What Do They Want? And is one that we are really going to highlight tonight, which talks about his personal experiences also with his alien abductions, and then he's also written a book, which we've had him on the show before, Angels and Supernatural Entities, the Alien Angel Connection. So let's bring Dave onto the show right now. Hello, Dave.
Hi,
Dave.
I've been listening, and wow, shadow banning numbers. Oh, I've got you. I saw my numbers go from like 1,500 down to 600 in 3 or 4 hours. And how do they do that? I don't know. Next day it come back up to where it's supposed to be. That's on Facebook. And actually the other channels and what you're talking about, it's what your topics are. They'll come after you if you talk about anything political or anything
medical.
Yeah. And you have to always say this is for entertainment purposes only. That means I'm just bull essing, So that's not true. We're not bull essing on these topics, on the ET topics. So we can talk about that. And I've been not only shadow banned, but I've been tracked and stalked 3 times in the past 2 months, and people following me. It's what they're doing is they know that I interview a lot of people that works, like for NASA and other, scientific laboratories, and they know that I know a little bit about something about ETs. So they're tracking me. I've had several people in their guys, and they're in trucks mostly. And one of them had a big rammer on his truck. It must have been 3 or 4 inches thick, and I don't know what it was made out of, iron or steel. He was following me, and I said, "Oh my God!" I said, oh. And he followed me for a way. But there's other guys watching me, and when I drive by them, they just stare right at me, and then they follow, get behind me and follow me for a while. And so I think they know that I'm an ex-veteran and also have a license to carry, so they know that too. And I'm always ready. I'll look in the rearview mirror and I'll watch everything they do. So it's scary, when you know you're being followed and tagged. But when you're in this business and you're an influencer like you guys, that's going to happen. It's going to happen. You're a TI, targeted individual, actually.
Dave, when you feel those things happening around you and you see these things and these people around you, does it make you kind of question yourself in the way, oh, should I keep doing this?
Yeah.
Does it make you does it re-fortify you? Say, oh no, damn, I'm going to keep doing it because of it.
Yeah, about 4 months ago, after I had the real run-in, I was in behind my complex and I threw the garbage away, and I was getting in my car. There was a guy watching me from a distance on the other side of the road that comes into my complex. So I saw him watching me, and I could just feel the negative energy from that. And I said, uh-oh. I pulled out, and when I got to where he was at, he was gone. I said, oh, okay, he's gone. I pulled around the corner to go down on the highway, the 2-lane highway. There he was sitting on the side of the road waiting for me. And I drove by real slow, and I looked at him. We looked at each other, and I knew he was following me. Sometimes you can see people looking at you weird, and you might think they're following you, but the contact that you make with these people, the facial contact, they are looking at you in a mean way, saying, "Okay, I'm following you."
Would you classify these people like Men in Black?
They are the amateur Men in Black. They're being paid. These are actually kind of civilians. They're just on a payroll somewhere, and they don't know where they're being paid, but they get paid. But they're normal, ordinary. The 3 guys that I've seen follow me, they're normal, ordinary guys dressed, like in construction, maybe stuff, and they're doing this on the side. It's kind of like a detective, a private eye, and that's what they're doing. But they tag these individuals that the military or the alphabet boys think, well, they're an influencer. We need to intimidate this guy to slow him down or to get him off. Yes, and I did think about 4 months ago about quitting. I was scared when I got a real face-to-face, follow. It scared me, and I thought about quitting. And I had people say, "No, don't quit. That's what they want you to do." So I'm not quitting. So
good.
Will, if you don't mind to follow up, I'm answering a question in chat.
Okay.
I'm so
No
sorry.
problem.
I'm typing. If y'all hear that,
no, that's fine. That's fine. No, and it's really interesting you say that, Dave, because a lot of us that are in this field really, they get different types of experiences. It's some as extreme as yours, like what you're talking about there, and people following you. Others, it'll be innocuous things like small shadow banning and things of that nature.
Right.
When you start seeing that happen, does it does it make you feel that not only A, you're on the right track, but B, you need to go further and further into it because you've hit a nerve?
I've hit a nerve. It's when you're over the target, you get more flack. Since I'm a military guy, that makes it, makes it a little simple for me. Yeah, I want to keep going, and I'm not afraid to. When we talk about disclosure, here's one thing I know they like to kick my butt on. And when people talk about disclosure with me as a guest, as a scientist or whatever, I tell them, I said, I don't think disclosure is going to happen because it's not the Pentagon that's stopping it. It's not the White House that's stopping it. The puppets there in Washington, D.C. It's the people above them, the elites, the deep state, the cabal. They're the ones who don't want disclosure because they've been working with ETs for hundreds of years, maybe thousands. The elites, we're talking about the Pope, the kings, and the rich people, the 13 big families. We're talking about them. They control the purse strings. I mean, $60 trillion just in one area, and there's more than that in other areas, and riches. But they control us. We're just slaves working for a little bit of pay, and they try to make us happy with just a little bit of breadcrumbs, and maybe we will go away and not bother them. But they're the ones who's stopping it because they don't want us to know what technology they're using against us. Now, there's frequency technology, there's microwaves, there's the DEW weapon, direct energy weapon.
Dark energy. Right.
Yeah, that's being used, and they don't want us to know that. If we knew it, then we'd know their game plan, and we'd know what we can do.
Right. Yeah.
Well, go ahead. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
We're talking about alien abductions and everything tonight, and you are military. I'm interested in knowing how many military people. I think a lot of military people, including my father, was test subjects he had a lot of electric shock therapy in his brain and stuff after Vietnam and things. But military people, do you think that they test out? Because on NASA's website, I find out that they've been putting chips in military's brain when they turn 18, some of these newer ones since 2017. Do you think you were a test subject, Dave, since you're military? And then I want to go into your first experience of an alien abduction.
Well, no, I don't think I was a test subject directly, but when I got in the military, I was only I was 19, and I was out of high school just for a few months, and I tested high, so I got whatever I wanted. I want the nuclear weapons. I had to wait 6 months for a top secret security clearance, and I heard once you are on that top secret security clearance list, you never go off of it because they know who you are, and if you've had a top secret. That's what some guy told me, a scientist told me that here about 3 months ago. I can't think of Dr. Bob, I think. But he told me that he has a top secret security clearance still. And he says, you want to know something? I said, what? He said, you still have one, but they know about it. It's not active. You're not using it, but they got you on the list. So that could be part of why maybe following. But my experience started at 13. If you wanted to know my first abduction with a friend of mine, and it was in 1963, and we saw this UFO floating over our neighborhood in between our two streets, and we were sitting there drinking soda, and just had a little 10 transistor radio. Back then, it was drinking Pepsi in a glass bottle, so that dates me right there. But we smelled something that smelled like sulfur, but actually it's ozone. Ozone is what it is. That's what I found out later when I got into the modern stuff. But we smelled that and we said, what's that? And we saw some lights kind of like above the treetops. They were two small lights. And we thought it wasn't a helicopter because it wasn't making any noise. So we went up on a street. My buddy grabbed the flashlight and we walked down the street. My street and his street were parallel to each other. We just, there's a couple of yards different. But we walked up the street and he flashed the flashlight at him. And he got kind of mad about this, but I told him the truth because you have to figure these things out. He was flashing the flashlight and he said they were flashing back at us. And I saw the lights on the UFO. They were kind of glittering back, like they were flashing, but they're not because they were hitting tree leaves at the top of the trees. And that's what turned them off and turned them on when they got clear. So he thought, and so he got upset about that. I said, no, I hate to spoil your thoughts about that. But I'm very detailed on that whole experience, and certain things he was watching, certain things I was watching. But we got up in this empty lot and we looked up, and this it was kind of a bulbous flying saucer, kind of like a top, an old top. It had 3 layers, probably about 22 feet high, probably about 35 feet wide, and it in the middle of it, it had windows or portals. And we were watching shadows running back and forth, and we kind of pinched each other. And he pinched me really hard, and I said, "Wow, that hurt." And he said, "Man," he said, "Are you seeing this?" I said, "Yeah, I am." I said, "I'm scared. I'm going to see an ET." Like little kids are scared, but they'll go to these horror movies and go and they want to be scared. And so that's part of the whole game plan. But I was wanting to actually see more and do more. But then something happened, like everything kind of went quiet. And then we ended up back on that empty lot, standing, and we looked at each other, and the craft took off. He didn't see it take off, but I went back and drew a diagram of this, kind of trying to be scientific about it. I drew a diagram, and we were looking at it, and it was in the southwest. And when it took off, it headed due west, really fast, up through the clouds, because I saw it take off. He didn't see that. He must have been still kind of dumbed down, and I must have come out of it quicker. And boom, it was gone. I mean, in a flash. And then we said, well, we're going to go home and tell our folks. And so he went home and told his dad. He lived with his dad in the downstairs apartment. And his dad said, "Oh, yeah, son, okay, you saw a flying saucer, now go to bed." I went home, and my mom had the house locked up. She normally don't lock the house up until we're all in, but she thought I was going to spend the night in my friend's house. So she had the doors all locked up, and I banged on the door, and she opened the door. She said, "You know what time it is?" I said, "No." I said, I wish you would have told me. That's one thing I wish she would have told me, because our little escapade started about 10:30, somewhere like that, with this UFO. And if it was around midnight, I'm sure that's what my mom was. She was mad about the time because it had been around midnight. And she doesn't remember either. I talked to her. Matter of fact, I'm gonna have a show with her. She's 96. I'm gonna have a show with her talking about her UFO experiences, her experiences in her house.
One of my questions tonight. Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
And
Sorry.
she was attacked by shadowy figures, and she saw things in the house like a golden Buddha thing. It wasn't quite a Buddha. She didn't know how to explain it, but she saw those things, and she actually has seen UFOs up close. And she saw the one I saw in 2011, the huge triangle craft. But to finish up on this abduction, we didn't know if we were abducted or not. We went and told the kids the next day, we saw this flying saucer. They all laughed at us, little kids. So we didn't say nothing no more. That was it. We didn't talk about it or anything. Even when I went in the military, I didn't talk about it because I was afraid the military would think I'm crazy and I would never get into service. I actually wanted to go serve. Silly me. But it was kind of, I knew something happened. There was a time lapse. Something really happened. And I had I guess a dream, a lucid dream, about several weeks later. It took that long for it to come through. And I had a dream that I was in this dark room, and I was sitting on a metal table, and it was really warm inside. And I know my buddy was in there with me. I could feel him there, but I couldn't see him because the room was dark. And I was putting on the wrong shirt. I was a little bit more chubbier than him. I had a size up, and I couldn't put the shirt on. And I was just really groggy. And I felt like I was going to fall off the table because I was so groggy. And I tried to put the shirt on, and it was his shirt. They had our shirts mixed up when they took our clothes off.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so that's my lucid dream. And we finally got set down, I guess, on the ground, and then it was over with. But I told my buddy that. He doesn't remember like being on the ship. Matter of fact, he hasn't been followed up ever since that. For some reason, DNA frequencies, they follow some people, and it's other people they don't. So my buddy was never bothered after that. Yeah, he never saw another UFO. He didn't have an abduction experience. I told him, I said, we were abducted, and I told him that's the reason why. And the other reason how I knew we were abducted is about 3 weeks during that dream, I felt a lump in my left testicle. Mm-hmm. And I was 14 at the time. And I thought, what's that? And then I looked down, and there was a line, thin red line, about an inch long. It was a laser line, which we call today. But back then, I didn't know what that was. So I felt this lump, and I kept pushing on it, pushing on it. It took about 3 or 4 minutes, and I finally popped it out, and it looked like a little ash color Advil tablet, or an M&M, small M&M. And I looked, as I was looking at it, it was turning darker brown. You know, the oxygen outside of it started deteriorating. I went and showed my mom, and she says, that's nothing but an ingrown hair. She said, throw it away. I said, no, Mom. She looks at me, she said, what do you mean? I said, there was a hole cut for it. There was an inch line hole cut. It was a line, and that's what I pushed it back out of. How I had the sense to do that, maybe I was being guided, maybe by good ET, to guide me to take those disc out. So I got it out, and I told my mom, no, there was a cut. It was a red cut there. So I said, you want to see it? She goes, no. She said, just throw it away. She was done with it. So I think it scared her. I don't think she wanted to go any deeper. And that's what they call in journalism, that's the second shoe that falls. Then you know the truth was we were abducted, because that's what they put an implant in me. My buddy never said he had an implant. I don't think after that, some people can have these experiences and never have them again, only one time. And then others, people like myself, I see these UFOs. I've seen 6 up close UFOs, and I've been abducted. I can't really count the number of times. And but that's the first abduction that I knew that I was abducted because of the implant and the red line. Yeah. So it took some years later. And when I went in the Army, I was in top secret, and I was in nuclear weapons. I got out of it because I didn't like it. I didn't like going and meeting with military intelligence people every weekend and offering us cigarettes and soda or whatever. And they would ask me, said, have you written home and said anything about your training? I said, no, sir. I said, you got my letters. I said, you open them. We leave our letters open. They could not be sealed. They had to read everything that went out. And so I said, no, you read my letters. I said, do you call? I said, yeah, I call, but I don't talk about this. I said, if that's what you mean. And they did that every week while I was in training. I just couldn't handle it. Then we were going to go to Sandia. And I said, that's it. I won out of the class. I had an 89% average. I was in the class with bachelor's degrees and master's degree people. And I was the only high school person in there. So, but I was doing 89%, and they didn't want to drop me. So they said, no, we're not going to let you drop. So I had to go to post chaplain to get me out of the class. But that made me a free agent. So I went to Vietnam, and I turned out to be a platoon sergeant. And of course, after I got back, they offered me a commission, a lieutenant. So that's how that all went. But I didn't know anything. They asked me about, did you see anything in Vietnam, like a flying saucer, or did you see any ETs? I said, no. I said, there's so much light and fire in the sky. There's so many red tracers, white tracers, so many that puffed the magic dragon that sprayed that minigun out, and flares going up and all kinds of bombs bursting. If a UFO wanted to hide under that cover, they could very easily do it. So I didn't see any,
Right. Yeah.
And I didnn't see any in any of my patrols I went on either. So I didn't see no ETs during that. So I think Linda Moulton Hall asked me that question one time. Did I see ETs in Vietnam? I said, no, I didn't. I've seen everything here in Illinois, all my UFOs and all my abductions, basically, except for one in Sedona. And I was telling you earlier, there's 3 types of abductions, and I'll explain each one of them. The first abduction is bedside. It's like a doctor comes to your bedside and he examines you. And I've had that happen to me. I had a little gray that come to my bedside. This little guy walks in front of my mirror. My ex-wife had the room totally dark, and because she couldn't sleep otherwise, and she had to get up early. So I thought it was my adopted daughter coming in to go into our master bathroom to get aspirin because she had a headache. I called out her name several times, and she didn't answer. I saw a dark shadow going across the mirror, even with a minimum amount of light. And I saw that. I said, what's going on? I hollered out her name again. It wasn't her. And then this little guy comes up beside me. He's only about 3.5 feet tall, and he was ugly. He had wrinkles upon wrinkles, but he didn't have his black lenses on. He was a gray. I could see the whites of his eyes. Yeah, and his eyes were big, about twice our size, and he had wrinkles. He had 2 little holes and a little slit for a mouth, like they usually say. But he didn't look like the commercialized little gray that you see in the stores or you buy or in the movies. Sometimes this guy was wrinkled and ugly looking. I looked at him. I had my chin in my left palm when I was looking at him, and he just stared at me, and I had fear in me. For about 5 seconds, I was really fearful, and then I was out. I went out, and I know what he did after that. He took semen samples, DNA samples, and frequency samples of my brain, and locked in on my frequency, and pulled out my consciousness, and knew what my memories were. They can read your memories with the technology they have. So they do all that bedside, and they can actually put implants in bedside too. So that's not hard for them to do at all. Now with women, it's a little bit more complicated.
Sorry. Yeah, of course. It's
just like anything in life.
It's gonna be complicated with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to go there in that complicated. Not that type of complication.
That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, it's the kind of a surgical type of routine where they poke these big needles in there and they retrieve the eggs from a woman. Either that or they implant semen for them to have a baby. Then they're pregnant for about 2-3 months and the baby disappears. I've talked to some women that's happened to. And so I think what they do to them is they beam them up and they go on the board ship and they do that kind of work. And that's why women say a lot of times that they'll see, on board ship and they're scared and there's a room that looks like kind of like an operating room with lights. And that's what scares them, because what's going on, it's more intricate operation. With us guys, they just put a little electronic trigger system on us and get the semen. And they use that for the DNA or for hybrid, other hybrid kids or whatever. And but I've been on board ship. I have had lucid dreams, and they were abductions that I can't really tell when. You can't really place the time. What happens to you? You're knocked out during your sleep, and you don't know what's going on. You sleep all night long, then you wake up and say, "Wow, I had some kind of a dream. I can't figure it out." And then about a few days later, maybe a week, 2, you'll have a lucid dream, and you'll see what actually happened. The biggest lucid dream I had is I ended up on this ship. It was a big ship. It had a hallway and it was lit. It wasn't dark. And the walls were like, they were like metal, like aluminum color or whatever. And the floor was a little rough, like a rough type of carpet, and you walked on it. And I walked down this hallway and I saw these rooms, and I was wondering what's going on. I saw figures in these rooms, and they looked humanoid. They looked kind of like us, but I couldn't really tell. They seemed like they blinded me on seeing certain people or certain ETs. I went into this hallway, and there's a big room, like a conference room, and there's 3 pedestals. On each pedestal was a tall humanoid figure. And I know they were the tall whites. They were the ones that, because I'll tell you here in a minute why I know that. They had animals on a kind of a leash or collar, and they looked like part kangaroo, part monkey, and they were doing, I guess they were creating life. And I thought to myself, well, this is kind of like a Noah's Ark type of ship in which they create life and they plant it on other planets. They'll make an animal or even a human, and they'll make them and put them on another planet. And they're seeding all these planets around us. And I thought, oh wow! So I couldn't see them up close, and I turned around, and on my right foot there was a black box that was following my right foot. And I thought, what the heck is that? You can think out loud in a lucid dream, and you can really think, and you can see things. And I said, what is that? And I found out later that they put your soul or your energy in that box somehow or another to protect it. so as they, they don't harm the soul. It's against the sources. We are God's people. Actually, inside of us, we have parts of God. We don't have to go out to get God. We don't have to go to church. We don't have to have somebody dunk us in the river to get God in us. God is there. I can't say it's a he. I can't say it's a she. But when I walked down the hallway, I saw these women in white robes. I knew they were women because they seemed like women. I could sense it. And one of them turned to me, and they looked like a human, but they had a mask on their face. And I looked in the middle of what they were looking at, and there was a baby there, about 5-6 months old, and it had 3 eyes right straight across his forehead. And I said, "Whoa!" When I said "whoa," they kind of looked at me, and I backed off. And then I looked around, and here comes this really tall woman walking towards me in the hallway. And I looked, and she didn't scare me because she was actually beautiful. She didn't have no hair, and she had big almond eyes, dark almond eyes, and she was very attractive. The tall whites and the Palladians are attractive people. So she was walking towards me, and she must have been about a foot taller than me, and I'm about 5'10". So she must have been a foot taller than me because I had to look up at her and talk to her, or try to talk to her. And she looked at me, and I looked at her, and I knew what she was telling me. She went over to this panel. It wasn't actually a control panel. There's no gauges, no needles or lights. It was just like an outcropping of the metal wall. It was a little round disc that she put her hand on. And when she put her hand on it, she disappeared. And then she come back. And then I thought, wow. I looked at her and I said, "How did you do that?" And she looked at me and she just grimaced with her lip, went down on the right side just a little bit. And I had scientists tell me, he said, "Dave, they don't want to talk to us. We're too stupid. They don't want to talk to us." And I said, "Yeah, you're right." So they're at least I was getting her telepathic messages telling me what I should do. And she told me to follow her. She touched that round disc thing again, and I followed, got it. She went down this hallway. It was about 8 feet tall and about 4 or 5 feet wide, and that's where they actually, you go in there and you go back to where you come. And it was kind of, I followed her. She disappeared. Then I went, and I ended up back in my bed. And so I went for a little tour on that ship, and but I've had other things happen too, and I went, and let me qualify or quantify this thing about lucid dreams. I've talked to several scientists just recently, and one guy who's very sharp, and I had a scientist write and tell me today that guy was really sharp, and I asked him, I said, "I've had lucid dreams." I said, "How real are these?" And he says, "They're real." He said, "What you're doing is a lucid dream. You're just reliving whatever happened physically." And I said, "Okay, I understand that because I actually felt, that I was there, and I actually felt what happened. I actually had feelings when I was on that ship, and I could tell the temperature. I can tell the temperature was nice on that ship. The tall whites and the Palladians are probably similar to us when it comes to environment. But I've had other lucid dreams, and the reason why I want to talk about lucid dreams because those are abductions. They're kind of like recorded in your memory and your consciousness. And I had another dream. I ended up in this lab. I come through this hallway just like I did the previous lucid dream. I come through this hallway, and I was standing there. And then there was an older guy. I can tell he was older, and he was humanoid. He was just a little bit taller than me, and he had blue spots on his arm. Why? I can see their arm. I don't know why. And the woman that was tall, I saw her arm when she put her hand on the little control thing. I saw her arm. It had little hairs on it. I think the reason why they're showing me their arm or whatever, I can see those, but I saw her face, but I didn't see this guy's face, but I saw his arm. His arm had blue patches, and he had hair on his arm, telling me that he was humanoid or a hybrid. So what he did is he messed around with some dials, the same type of dials that that this one lady had. They were protrusion from the wall, and they were round, and he would put his hand on them, and he looked at me, and they erased his face from my memory. I couldn't remember his face. I just knew he was an older guy, and he was a hybrid blue alien. And there was some gal, had long dark hair, laying under a kind of like a blanket or a sheet or whatever. And then he told me to get under the sheets and join her. And I knew what he meant. So we copulated, and it felt like real. Okay. Not to be nasty, but it felt like real. And my buddies told me, "Oh, you got alien love, huh?" I said, "Yeah." They said more than that. You know what kind of words they probably use. So, but I got back up. He told me, he says, "Okay, follow me." So I followed him to this hallway. And so he said to walk that hallway. And I knew because I've done it before. And I walked it, and I returned back to my bed. So people who had lucid dreams, don't discount them. Don't discount them. If you remember them, if they're dreams that you remember every little thing about them, that means they're real. And then I had one lucid dream, and I talked to a couple of scientists about it after what happened. I was walking in my house, and they were walking me down the hall from my bedroom, and there was two entities behind me. I couldn't see them. I tried to look around, but they had control of me. I couldn't look around. They walked me to the front room, and I had a steel door, not totally steel, you know what I'm saying, fabricated steel door. And they told me to walk through the door. And I kind of turned, and I didn't see anybody. I said, "You're crazy. I can't walk through that door." And instead of walking through with my head first, I put my hand out, my arm. My arm went through the door. And then as the longer I had it in that door, I thought, wow. I looked around. You got this crazy notion, you're out of your mind, and you look around and says, "Anybody seeing this?" It was really scary for me. And the longer I held it in there, my arm was getting really hot. I mean, it was burning hot. So I knew I had to finish going through that wall. And that door. And when I did, I got on my porch, and then they beamed me up, and I went up. And that's where I had one of the visitations, I'm sure. But I talked to a scientist about that. He said, if you can feel pain or heat like you did, he said, with your arm, he said, that's real. He said,
I'm surprised I didn't wake you up, Dave, if you felt that much heat.
I was awake. They had me under control.
Okay.
They was walking me. Yeah, they were walking me to the door. Yeah, I was awake, and I knew everything except who they were and what they were wanting. I just knew that they wanted me to walk through the door, and then they'd beam me up. And see, I'd be teleported like I was on that big ship, and also the smaller ship that I was on with this blue spotted alien hybrid. And so I knew that was teleportation they were using. And they could teleport you right back where you come from, even in the same position that you were in. Their technology is crazy.
Well, I want Will to have a follow-up question here, but I want to throw this in here in the mix real quick because Doug asked this question a little bit that's watching, but any feeling of a vibration during this time? Did you have any kind of vibrational feeling?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I've had ear rings, like loud crickets in my ears. I've had vibrations in the bed. I've had actually energy feelings going up and down my body, and it felt good. I mean, it was really good. It was good energy, and I felt that. And yes, vibrations whenever. And I actually had electrical shock in a couple of my abductions, and this was a big scary one. I was awake during this time, and this happened in 2011. Seemed like everything happened between 2008 and 2012. And then when I got married, things started slowing down because they don't mess with you too much if you got a partner. For some reason, I don't know. When my wife went on a Philippine trip for 2 months, they were in my house. I got pictures of them and everything, and they were in my house, and they were setting off alarms and all this. So, but when when I really got abducted with electricity, this is the first time I felt it. And I know that what this gentleman's talking about, vibrations, but it's electrical vibration. It's a static vibration where they're charging you up. And it was about 1:30 in the afternoon. I felt tired. There's a sequence too to abductions. They make you feel tired. You're very tired and weary, even during the day. And if you're by yourself, that's even better for them. They don't have to knock the other person out. But you feel real tired and weary. So I went and laid down. It's 1:30 in the afternoon. The sun was shining really bright. I laid down, but I'm not the type of person that takes a nap. I never take a nap. If I do, I feel awful. So I laid there and kind of stretched my back out, and I put my chin in my palm of my hand, and I was looking out the door, and I was just kind of relaxing, and all of a sudden I heard this crackling sound behind me, on my right side behind me. It was so loud. It was kind of like if you take a couple of boxes of saltine crackers and start stomping on them. That's what it sounded like. It was really loud. And I tried to turn around, take a look at what it was, and I got hit in the shoulder with it. It just zapped me. And I felt that hit. It kind of hurt. And I said, oh, wow. And I was frozen. I was just, I couldn't move. I was, paralyzed. But I wasn't paralyzed all the way, because what happened was I tried to move again to try to turn, and they hit me again, and that did it. I was totally paralyzed. And I was looking through the door. I couldn't move my head, but I could move my eyes. And I still had my hand, up to my left side up against the headboard. And then I heard a voice coming from the hallway. And this tells me that people or things can come through that portal. When they open a portal, other entities can come through. Yeah, it had to be something.
That's what I was going to ask too. Hologram technology, because we're getting a lot of that now. Could that be part of a portal?
I'll tell you about the holographic reptilian that I saw after this. It was very much the same time. I heard a voice saying, "Dave, you can do it. You can do it." And I said, "What, sissy?" It was my sister. She was talking to me from the hallway, but I couldn't see her. I said, "Come to the door so I can see you." She said, "I can't. I can't." I said, "Why?" She said, "I just can't." She said, "Do it, Dave." And I said, "What?" And I didn't see her. And then I felt a baby's hand drop in my hand as I had it up on the headboard. I pulled down on the fingers and the palm, and it was a little baby's hand. Must have been maybe 4 months old, 5 months old, somewhere in there. It was a baby's hand. And I thought, well, what are they trying to tell me? What's going on here? See, I was conscious enough to be thinking, and I know, and I was looking around with my eyes. And then I felt something set beside me that was heavy. The bed went down at my hip area. And I said, oh no, what's next? What's next? And I screamed out, and this always works, and you might have heard other abductees say this. When you scream out, "God help me," they leave you alone. That usually ends it. I had to say it twice, and then whatever this being was, it was gone. And I got back to all my body function and everything. Said, wow, that was scary. And I talked to a couple of scientist friends of mine, because when things like that happen to you, it scares you. I mean, it's scary, but you got to keep going. And Will, you mentioned that a while ago. You want to keep pushing? Yes, you do. You're curious, and you're asking them to come back and talk to you or communicate. They're not going to talk, but communicate with you and tell you why they've been messing with you most of my life. I deserve an explanation, for what are the things that they've done, and the abductions, the craft I saw up close. And so I asked even God to, let your ET creations come to me and talk to me and explain what is going on. And that's why the book, what do they want? And it's kind of common sense what they want. They check the body out, DNA, because they actually, 80% of our DNA is actually memories from our history, from past lives and from past human condition. And the scientists always wasted a DNA, but it's not. It's actually memory. It's like a computer card or a thumb drive. Our brains and our blood and our DNA store all this information. Now the ETs can read that DNA information, but we don't have the technology to do it. But they can read it. They can take your DNA and read. And that's why this one Yoko Ono, not the kind of type of gal that I called her that, is Hiroko is her name, but that's
we know about Yoko.
Yeah, but that's why she took interest in me, and she said she knew me. And I could say, Will and Emily, that you were asking about my books. I got a fourth book. It's in the publisher's hands right now. It's a sci-fi book, and it's using the same words this ET humanoid used on me in 2010. We were supposed to meet. That's the name of the book, and it's a romance between an ET and a human male, and the male is Native American Indian, tall, good-looking guy, and of course the gal is Palladian princess, very pretty gal, and so that book, hopefully they'll have it done in a month. It'll be on the market. But I wanted to go sci-fi. But actually, when I did a proofread of the book, it had me in there. I'm talking from third person, and I think, wow, even the combat areas, the fights that they get to with the underground reptilians, even that was kind of from my memory of combat. And of course, the ET part of it was my memory from meeting ETs and having this experience. So I explained that in the introduction. So, but when I read it, I thought, oh my God, I put me in there. I said, that's not me. It's that good-looking, tall Native American Indian. That's he's the hero.
I see the resemblance. I see it.
I mean,
Dave. Yeah, let me ask you a quick question, if you don't mind me jumping in real quick.
Sure.
So, we're talking about these experiences that you've had all throughout your life, it seems like. Yes. Have you ever entertained the thought or idea of maybe regression hypnosis and maybe taking on a session of that to kind of maybe relive one of those moments again? Or what's your take on that? What's your opinion?
Well, to tell you the truth, I had a guy on last night, and I know Emily might know him. Cal, this Mesles.
Not Cal. Cal. I know a Cal, and he's awful. I hate to say it, but Cal.
Melquez.
Oh no, it's not the same person. I know.
No, well, this guy was very sharp in spirituality and everything. He felt my energy, and he held his hands like this. Let me show you, like that. And he said, "Did you see me hold my hand like that several times during our talk?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Why'd you do that?" He said, "Because you had so much energy coming off of you." And he said, I had to kind of back off some of it. And most people say I have that energy. I have psychics that are afraid of me. I tried to get psychics to give me a read, and they actually looked at me and walked away. You talk about hypnosis. I tried that once too, back in 2012 during all this. I went to a lady. She was a very experienced gal, and about 30, 40 minutes away from me. And I had an appointment with her, and I went there. And she's been doing this for years, hypnotizing. And she was getting into the ET abduction thing just then. She was interested in finding out more about it. So she said, yes, I'm very curious. And then she laid me on the couch like they normally do. She sat there at her desk. She said, I'm going to count back from 10. By the time I get to 1, she said, I want you to be relaxed and partially asleep. I looked at her and said, I don't know if I can do that. And then I had that towel's hum. It was humming so much that the sofa was vibrating. This guy was talking about vibration. The sofa was vibrating. My body was vibrating, like something didn't want me to expose the truth from my memory. And I turned around to this gal, and I knew her name. I don't want to mention her name, but I turned around to her, and I was telling her that I couldn't go out. And then she was out. She was at the desk. She was sound asleep. Her eyes were peeled to the desk. I went over and tried to shake her several times to wake her up. It took me about a minute of shaking and talking to her to get her to wake up. And then she woke up, and she's, oh my God, that huge triangle, that's the rapture. And I said, wow, how'd you get that? And she goes, was I out? I said, yeah, you were out. I wasn't. So what happens is, it's reverse hypnosis. I don't think anybody can hypnotize me. I would challenge anybody to do it, because there's some kind of energy that stops me from exposing my consciousness or what's really up there. And maybe that they're saving that for someday. Maybe I got a purpose. My purpose now is just like you guys, enlighten people to the truth. Tell people that these ETs are real, UFOs are real, government intervention is real. following. It used to be bad, like Men in Black. Now they're using just plain clothes guys now, so they're not making a big scene of it. But I've heard if they really don't like what you're talking about, if you're talking about the military, there'll be military guys come to your house and they'll tell you to cease and desist. That still happens. But I haven't had a military, unless it happened here at the house. And Emily, a guy that we both know that might have been CIA. I don't want to mention the name now. CIA. Yeah, and he told me that the marks on my legs, I had little holes in my legs, about 12 of them. They were all on the line.
I talked to you about the wounds, the injuries of this thing, not just your first where you had the tablet thing, but I was wanting to talk about because your injuries, you sent me pictures of it, but now that I've listened to a lot more stories this past week and did like a little bit of deep dive on this stuff, it seems like everybody has the same injuries. It looks like a fork's been poked into you and like you have like a little rash area.
Yeah, it's like 3 lines, and they were holes. And
yeah,
they seemed like they were
a lot
drilled.
of people have this. A lot of it, almost majority of the testimonies I listened to this past week on different social media platforms and podcasts, they all said it looks like a 4-prong fork was stuck into your skin, but there was a pattern of them, and it goes up and down in the pattern. Some of them look really clean, but some of them that I saw was also a little bit sporadic, but they were all still in that same area.
Right. Well, I asked 3 doctors. My primary doctor was the final one I asked about, and he looked at him. And he's kind of like a soap opera guy. He's got this nice comb back hair, and he has lousy bedside manner. So I don't really particularly like him when I'm going to him. But he stood there and looked at my marks, and then I showed him pictures of the progression of the healing of the marks. And he looked at the pictures, and he looked stupefied. I mean, he was just there like, wow, what's going on here? And he writes on his page on diagnosis, he said, patient has rash on legs, and that's all he can say. He couldn't say no more.
That's another thing too. I'll just tell you this: the 4-prong injuries I have wrote down was on legs. It was on the right leg mostly, and then it was also on the abdomen, on the left side of the abdomen, on most of these people that I listened to this past week.
Yeah, most of mine are on the left. Grant Cameron told me one time that most people he studied, he said a lot of these marks are the what the implants are usually on the left. I've had my left leg had an implant in it, and I dug that out back in 2011. I got pictures of it. I kept it until it totally dissolved, and I got pictures. It was ugly looking. I had a biologist. She was a supervisor at St. Louis University, and she looked at it through a microscope, and she said, "Oh my God, that's god awful ugly. They look like little octopi. They were just little octopi kind of swimming around." And those are the things that join into your nerves and into your DNA and your consciousness. They get into your body, and that's how they do it with implants. There's a couple types of implants. One is a biological implant, which is more carbon based, in which dissolves into your bloodstream and then your nervous system. Then the other one's a little metal type. It's this Dr. Roger Lear. He dug these out, these little metal objects. And what those are is that they're doing the same thing. They're sending out frequencies and signals through your nerves and through your body, and it's kind of reconditioning your DNA. They're not to trace you. They don't need implants to trace anybody. They can find you anywhere. I moved to Alaska for a couple of years, and they found me there. I had apports put in my pocket even, and I didn't know where they come from. And it was just strange. I went to lunch with a bunch of scientists of University of Alaska, and I went there, a Rotary meeting, and that's where I ended up with one of these little round plastic things in my pocket. It was incredible. How did it get in my pocket? So they follow. They're actually in human form, where they're walking amongst us. I pick up different energy from these people, like Dr. David Jacobs says. He's the first one to come out with this research. They are here. They're working with us. They're in Washington, D.C. They don't take on elected position. What they do is they work behind the scenes, and they're the ones who control everything. You ever notice that? Who was it? It was the Senate Minority Leader. That this lady come up, and he was there talking, and he's an older guy anyway, Mitch McConnell. And
Mitch McConnell, Kentucky, right here. And no, we don't like Mitch McConnell. I ditched Mitch many years ago.
Okay, well, this lady come up. There's a video. It's shown on everywhere. It's real.
Let me see if I
This
can find it.
lady, she's in her late 50s. She comes up, has something in her hand. She comes close to Mitch McConnell, and then she pushed it like a button. And then there was two other senators looking at her and smiling, like they knew what was going on.
Oh, it's not senators behind him. I would call them handlers, like bodyguards, Secret Service.
Oh no, the tall guy was a senator. I can't think of his name. Senator Thune. Senator Thune. He was in there, and he smiled at this lady like he knew what was going on. And they turned Mitch McConnell off. He just went quiet.
He froze.
Yeah. There's a lot of people
hit the reset button.
Yeah, that's what these people are doing. These hybrid aliens are these humanoid aliens, and they're controlling things. They're the puppet masters.
Well, I got his. There's a lot of things with Senator Mitch McConnell too. It's not just this. There's some other stuff that's happened. I have the video here. Watch her. She comes in on the left. See the three tall men behind him here.
That's Thune to the right, the tall one.
Okay, the tallest one. Yeah. And these other two, they're watching him. You're going to see a woman come up in between here, and then they tap his elbow. And if you haven't watched this, but yeah, this is Mitch McConnell. No, I do not support him whatsoever. So here we go.
After finishing the NDA this week, been good bipartisan cooperation.
They give her a space too.
Look, tapped it. Watch this.
Yeah.
Bipartisan cooperation and a string of
look at Thune and this other one. I can't think of his name. They're both senators, and they're smiling.
Yeah. It's just super weird. Watch one more time here.
And a string of
right there, he stops. It's just like right there.
Exactly when she touches him. Yeah.
It's perfect timing.
We'll watch the end of this. It's not very long. A minute. Watch this.
That's a hell of a
You hear people whispering?
Yeah. And Thune in the background knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to say? Or should I just go back to the press? Do you want to say anything else to the press? Go back.
Go ahead, John.
I'll take it back. Let's go back to you.
Go ahead, John.
What you just saw was an ET alien woman who's a puppet master, and she's in control in Washington, D.C. She's one
Somebody
of them.
needs to keep an eye on that lady.
Yeah. Well,
nobody. Who is that woman? Like, I still looked her up. I still couldn't find any names on her when that happened. It happened about a year ago.
Well, they're walking amongst us, and they're there in Washington, D.C., and they're the puppet masters. If you pay attention to them and do what they say, you're going to end up with a couple $1 million in your back pocket. That's the corruption that takes place. It's not just what they get from voting for something for some rich guy. That's actually, if they behave themselves, the powers to be, the elites, are the ETs, the humanoid ETs that are running this world. And you talk about a holographic and matrix world.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we probably are. I wanted to tell you the only holographic alien that I saw. I met this girl in a nightclub. We were signing a contract for my band to play.
Be a girl, a hologram.
She wasn't.
The start of every horror movie, right there.
Yeah, it did.
no, she wasn't the holograph at the time. She was really pretty, about 25, had a black dress on. She could dance really well, and she turned on the jukebox, Michael Jackson song. And she danced, and then she'd come up to me. My brothers and I, two of my younger brothers and I, was sitting at the table. She'd come up to me with her hands like this, and she's motioning me on. And I thought, well, I'm too old for her. Why is she doing this? And I felt energy. Like I said, I felt some sort of energy from her that scared me. And 2 weeks later, what happened was she was sitting at the same bar with one or two people, women, and I was sitting a stool away from her, and I was sitting with my brother, and we were waiting to get the paperwork on the contract. And And she didn't even look at me. She turned her eyeballs, and her right eyeball had a green slit in it. She was reptilian. She showed me who she was. And I froze. You talk about tingling going up and down my back. That was weird. And I looked at my brother and said, "Did you see that?"
A vibration he got, by the way, Doug. The tingling of it was a vibration.
But not because she was good looking, but because she was an ET. But 2 weeks later, I looked at my ledger and I found out just here a while back, as I looked at the timelines, 2 weeks later, I woke up about 5 o'clock in the morning to go to the bathroom. And I was wide awake. I rolled up out of bed and I looked back towards my closet. And there stands about a 5'7" reptilian looking being. It had a cobra looking head and face. And that scared the crap out of me. I was so afraid that I was kind of, jumping around. I looked under the bed and I thought, oh my God, because a cobra scares the crap out of me. But this being, this reptilian, it was holographic. It was only there for about 10 seconds, and I kept looking at it, and then I looked back at it, and it disappeared. And I was told that sometimes they'll appear to us holographically because we are afraid of the reptilian look because it's a monster to us. The other aliens are different looking. The whites and the tall whites and the Pleiadians, and also the little grays aren't that scary. But some of them are ugly, like the one I saw. Yeah. But that just the holographic. The only time I think I saw a holographic ET type situation.
Well, I'm going to have Will ask one final question for you, Dave, and then we're going to have to close out the show. But of course, we're going to have you come back on because I haven't even got halfway down my list here of the stuff I listened to this week. I have tons of questions. I already have a date picked out too for you to come back on, so I'm going to be reaching out to you after the show. But I want Will to have one last question.
Are you going to ask me if I have ET babies? Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Well, it's one of that with.
You have to pay child support on those guys.
Well, hold on.
I wish they'd pay me.
Well, the baby hand triggered that thought, but I had that listed under. I have a section here called family experiences. I want to talk about bloodlines and DNA and your mom. I want to know more about your mom and if you have siblings or other cousins or anything, but that's a whole other thing. We're going to have you come back on, Dave.
Okay, right.
But I want Will to have one final question here and then we'll close out we'll let you go and close out the show.
There is a family hookup. Yes, there is.
Yeah. There is a family hookup. Dave, last question for you tonight for me is this. And this is something that I've always kind of wrestled with mentally when it comes to abductions and people that experience abductions. Now, it is said that the military may have a lot to do behind this as well.
Yes. Yes.
Acting like aliens and
yes.
acting like it's, an abduction. It's really not, and it's them really.
Right.
Is it that, or is it something alien, or is it maybe something really demonic? There's so many ways we can go that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's both. It's actually our black ops, the people that have been trained by the ETs and the cabal. These are black operations, military, paramilitary type people, and they can actually go invisible, just like aliens can. I've had them in my house. They were invisible right next to me because my meters would go crazy reading their magnetic energy. And I thought, wow, they're right next to me. And I hear this crackling, squeaking sound through my sound system, my computer. But yeah, the marks that were made on my legs, the rolls of marks, this guy, and Emily and I know him, I don't want to say his name, but he told me they were, one hole was plasma going in, one hole was plasma going out. And he said that the black ops have, back engineered what the ETs have been training them, and they've been doing some abductions in order to trick us, to fool us. It's all a big, we've been lied to all of our lives, but now we're being tricked and fooled about these abductions and cattle mutilations. Well, that could be partly, the black helicopters. Yeah, that could be partly our people. I don't want to say specifically.
Or laser technology. I think a lot has to do with laser.
Yeah, there's laser cuts.
With the cow stuff.
Yeah.
but that's just a theory. I don't know. I'm not an expert, obviously.
Yeah, you can take a look at them. A lot of experts have said that they're laser cuts.
Yeah,
they say a lot of those mutilations happen around Army bases and Army facilities. A lot of that within a certain amount of mileage. For some reason, I don't know why. But
Skinwalker Ranch has that with their cattle. They have. If you watch that program, it's pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Dave, real quick, where can people find you and people listen via podcast? I do have mostly I see your show posted on your personal Facebook page. I didn't share that link out because I didn't know if you really share that out. But Strange Reality, you have a podcast.
Yeah, you can share it out. It's fine.
Okay, I'll put it in the description of the show. Everything, but go ahead and tell everybody else where they can find you.
Well, actually, I'm on Rumble and YouTube, and I'm not catching on there too good. And I know, Emily, you know that the algorithms there, whatever what's going on. But I've got a guy I'm going to hire, admin, that's going to do my SEO work, and I that's what I need right now. I need that because I am doing well on Facebook. I mean, if you get 2,200 hits on Facebook, you're doing okay
nowadays.
Yeah, you're doing good. Yeah.
So I can spread that around, and I've had these SEO. I got some paperwork on a guy here that I want to hire him to get me more exposed. But I'm on about 18 platforms. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Rumble. I'm on Spotify. I'm on rs.com, and they got 5 distributions, and Apple is one of them that they distribute to. And then I'm on SoundCloud, and they got about 5 platforms they distribute to. So if you count them up, I'm on and LinkedIn, and I'm on Twitter, X, and I do shorts on Instagram and also TikTok. But now I need an SEO guy to turn those shorts out. But I'm all over the place. But actually, I'm not getting any numbers out there. But I want to be able to copy what I'm doing on Facebook.
Well, you're doing an amazing job, Dave, and I'm glad I can call you friend. I think we've known each other now for at least maybe 2 years.
3 years, just
2 or 3 years, and you are just a very go-to person. I believe your story, your background, you've always been factual. Your story has never changed, and I appreciate you pushing the truth out there. You've worked very hard, and your testimony, everybody needs to listen to him, and you have amazing guests on your show. So please, Strange Reality is the name. Just look it up, right? Like there's no other Strange Reality out there, right?
Yeah. I do have a lot of people ask me, how do you get all these big guests? Yeah. I said, well, I just ask them.
They know you're telling the truth though, because they kind of coincide with your experiences too.
Right. But no, I'm talking about professors, scientists, and all this, and also I had a guy that worked with Spielberg here a while back, and and I had another guy who's very famous on TV, and I won't mention any names. He's on my show here about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and then I had a lady who knew Shirley MacLaine. She was best friends with her, and she had a story to tell too about ETs and stuff. So yeah, I've had some interesting guests, and I think that's what helps me with those numbers with Facebook. But I want to keep going, like Will, you were talking. Yeah, I want to keep going, but
don't stop, Dave.
Yeah,
don't stop, Dave.
Don't stop.
As long as you're breathing,
we need
going.
you.
Yeah, we do. We do need you.
Yeah, I want other people to wait and take a look at the sci-fi book. It's first time I've ever written a sci-fi. The other 3 books were more like scientific ledger books, history, angel book. I had to look up a lot of that, but. This sci-fi book is a conglomeration of all what I've put in, but it's in a sci-fi story type book. It's a love, romance, war book, a novel, and I had to write in script fashion, with the quotes and stuff. Oh, that tore me up. I've never written one before. It is
My
different.
mom could help you with that. She's a retired language arts teacher. She could have helped.
Where are the quotes? Where are the quotes?
It's one of the first things I ever in double negatives. I ain't got I don't use double negatives in the quotes. My mom
Well, actually, the editor who they've edited some of my book, and they didn't really find that much wrong with it. They're using their own personal words, and I don't want them to. That's why you got to watch publishers. You don't want them to change your direction or what your meaning is. They can use words that'll twist it another way. And so I write back, said, no, I want this. I'll type it in on Word. You know, you get those changes and you'll type it. I said, no, this goes here. You know, this goes.
Yeah.
So I'm not what you call a big English grammar type person, but I've learned from the last 4 books, you know, that you know, how to get in there and write about it. So, yeah.
Well, we appreciate you, Dave. We're going to let you go. We're going to close out the show, but I'm going to be in touch with you to schedule you for part 2 because I want to talk about family experiences and other things. And when do you plan on having your mom on your show, by the way?
That's been a problem with timing because she's had some health issues, but she's still her acuity is 10 times that of Biden, and she's 96, and she can sit there and talk and tell me these stories. And I've been wanting to do it.
Document all of this. I don't care if it's one day thing. Like you need to record it all and put it in parts because I would love to hear her speak about this stuff.
I've had a lot of people tell me that she does have some stories to tell. Yeah. So I've been wanting to do it. I asked her when the good time because sometimes she feels tired in the afternoon. She's had some lung problem with fluid buildup, and they have to give her medications. And then my sister and brother who take care of her really well, and I appreciate that. They take her out in the afternoon, and she's usually gone all the damn time. She's running the streets.
I hope I'm like that at 96.
Me too.
Take me to Walmart. I don't want to go to Walmart right now, but if at 96, take me to Walmart. Let me sit on one of them benches. We have benches in Walmart, but believe it or not, here in Kentucky. And let me just watch the people.
Yeah, right.
By the time we're 96, you can teleport yourself from your house to Walmart.
I know. I'm probably going to be in a hologram. Hologram boxes at Walmart.
That's why I work out 3 times a week to try to stay with the program. You know,
there you go.
I'm getting old too. You know, so I have to be careful with that. So I got to keep doing this too. It keeps me sharp.
Yes, keep going. We're going to let you go, Dave. We're going to close out the show. We appreciate you. I'll be
messaging
you
in
a little bit. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, it was fun. Thanks.
All right, thank you. There we go. Dave Emmons. He does have 3 books out on Amazon. He has Senseless Wars, and Conflicts. He has What Do They Want? He also, which was last year, his new book that came out last year, and he was on the show. Angels and Supernatural Entities, The Alien Angel Connection. Please go look those books up on Amazon. And the whole entire time I kept thinking of The Simpsons and Poltergeist.
And Poltergeist? Yeah.
Baby hit Caroline.
Yeah, Caroline.
Well, next week, because I'm also, everybody knows I'm learning as I go. Will, you probably have a lot more knowledge in this than I do. Cryptids, we don't do much cryptids or alien stuff. I'm getting more into this. Next week on the show, we're gonna have Jason Hewlett, The Legend of Ogopogo, which is
Ogopogo.
Loch Ness Monster. I did
Yep.
not know that Canada had a Loch Ness Monster. So I'm going to research a lot of that this week and I'll have questions. But Jason Hewlett has a new book out. I'll be marketing it. And he is also with, he works a lot with, what's that company called?
Kenny? No? Oh.
Kenny, I can't remember. It's like Small Town Monsters. Small Town Monsters. That's it. He works with Small Town Monsters. So we'll be back again here live next Friday. We are on a roll. We got a great lineup. I'm already booking October too for paranormal people. So if you want to be on the show, contact me. I'm doing something a little bit different this year with October with paranormal people. But contact me. We love you all. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Share this out. Will Martinez, thank you so much for everything that you do. You know, I love you like a brother. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you next Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a wonderful, awesome weekend. Have a good night.
Adios. Good night.